So I spent the last year actually finishing a documentary film, which is coming out in 2024. But every second I wasn't working on that film, not every second, but most of the time when I wasn't working on that film, I was working on brand strategies with clients and customers, which I really love doing. And that's part of what I get to do as a brand strategist. So even though the film took a good amount of time, I was still trying to keep my skills sharp by working with a few clients here and there on their brand, on their strategy, their messaging, their online sales funnel, things like that. So here's 3 of my favorite things that I think are really important in a brand strategy that you can use honestly in any brand that you have, whether it's a product brand, a personal brand, any kind of brand. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that brand to me, there's no way to not have a brand. People are like, oh, don't spend time focusing on brand, or brand's a waste, or like, when should I start building a brand? You have a brand no matter what, because a brand is like just a feeling. It's a feeling about a business. It's a feeling about really anything. And of course, that concept's been taken much larger and used to, build huge companies and sell a ton of stuff and obviously make a ton of money. But just because you're not like the biggest company in the world doesn't mean you don't have a brand, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't work on understanding more about how to use brand basics basically to forward the things that you're doing. So a good brand strategy has 3 key things. 1, it has to get you excited. If you're not excited about the brand that you're building or the company you have or the personal work that you do, it's going to be really hard to get other people excited about it too. When you sit down and you think, what should our main values be? What should our brand identity be, i.e. the logos and the colors and all of that stuff? Am I excited to work with these kinds of people? Am I excited to have these types of customers? Am I excited to bring this brand into the world? Does what we're doing make me happy? Does what we're doing allow other people to be excited? That's when you're going to get the best brand affinity, where people are like, I want to be part of this, or I want to do business with you, or any of those things. So step 1, get excited. If you're not in a business model you feel excited about, or you're not building a brand you feel excited about, it's going to be really challenging. The second thing, and arguably maybe the most important thing, is that a good brand strategy should tell you what to do. It should be action oriented. You should be able to look at it and think, this gives me ideas about how I should go about my work, how we should go about customers, how we should go about our sales funnel, basically everything. There are so many exercises you can do to understand the brand value and how you're positioned, but they all should be leading somewhere. They should be leading you to a kind of statement, a kind of idea that says this is where we're trying to go. And that is what is so awesome about strategy. Strategy is the act of building a game plan. It's not necessarily a list of steps or tasks, but it's an idea of what you're trying to aim for so that you can put the right steps in place. For example, SpaceX's strategy, you could say, is to colonize Mars or to get humans to Mars. Now, that's a pretty large strategy that has a lot of steps underneath it and takes lots of years in order for them to eventually get there. You don't need it to be that big, but it does have to feel like, okay, this is where we're going. Back when Apple first started, Steve Jobs' main strategy was get computers into the hands of more people, make them beautiful, and make them easy to use. Everything else stems from that strategy. So when you're thinking about a strategy, think about, where do you want to take people? What is that end goal? And this is true of personal brands too. If there's something you really care about and you want to help facilitate through your services and your offers, that is the strategy. And don't get caught up on thinking, I want to be the best this or the better that. There is no best or better in any kind of strategy, because as long as you're trying to do that, there's just always going to be constant competition. A good strategy is about uniqueness. It's about positioning. It's about differentiation. It's about picking something that, again, you feel excited about, motivates you, and gives you action items. So for instance, I run a creative agency called Monday Media. One of the strategies that I've been trying to implement for the last few years and ongoing is bring compelling stories to people that empower and innovate. Now, underneath that, there are a variety of ways we can do that. One is through making documentaries as marketing material, which is one of my favorite things. Sometimes we run ads. Sometimes it's build websites. Sometimes it's by making brand identities for people. So all of those things are underneath that umbrella, because great brand is storytelling at its heart. Now, if you are a personal brand that maybe sells like an online course or something, you could have a strategy for what does that course do? And why is it important that you even do it? Those are some of the key ways to understand what strategy is, how to find yours, and why it's important. Now, the last thing I'll say about what makes a great strategy, and this is something I learned recently, so I've been trying to implement it with my clients, is there needs to be an opposite. So if you take your strategy and you turn it around to something else, could that also be a strategy? The reason this is interesting is because if there is an opposite to your strategy, that's a good thing. Because again, the goal of strategy is to be different. It's to be unique. It's to provide unique value in different ways, and to, again, give yourself stepping stones on the way that every day when you wake up and you look at it, you think, how can I fulfill on this strategy today, this week, this month, this year? That's how some of the biggest brands in the world are built and how they make a lot of their decisions. So back to my strategy at Monday Media of creating compelling stories, I have to ask myself, could there be a company that wants to not make compelling stories? Now, it may not be something that they intentionally say, we do not want to make compelling stories, but there are definitely companies that are making pretty bad stories. They're making videos that, to be honest, aren't very good and don't really innovate or inspire at all. They're just baseline what I would call video crap. So in that way, I'm trying to innovate and inspire and be slightly different and make sure that all the creative that comes out of the company really feels that way. In my consulting practice too, my strategy right now is to provide entrepreneurs with the simplest and most efficient way to get to their goals. I do that in my own way when it comes to branding, marketing, profitability stuff, but overall, I'd like things to be simple and I'd like things to be fast and efficient. There's probably tons of consultants out there that don't abide by that and have their whole different way of doing things, but something like that to me allows me to have some guiding ideas in my strategy, which means that I'm not going to give people a bunch of stuff that they don't exactly need in this moment. I'm going to try and listen before I give advice, and I'm going to take into consideration the things they really want instead of giving blanket tactics to anyone that I speak to when that may not be the thing that's most in alignment for what they want to do. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to have at least some kind of strategy for anything that you're doing. Similarly, if you were to go to the gym and stuff, the strategy is either like lose weight, gain muscle. That's the strategy. And then underneath, you'll have all these steps. So regardless of what part of life you want to apply these principles to, take a second, sit down, think about the transformation you want to make in the people that do business with you. Think about why it matters. Think about the problems that they're dealing with. Think about what inspires you and gets you excited, and then build your strategy off of that. I'll see you in another one.